Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Welcome, Forgers, to Heroes Forge. This is episode 12 of a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm your host, Jeff Reynolds, and as always, I have the awesome pleasure of announcing the show's co-host, Kristen Ashton. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Jeff, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing wonderful, especially after seeing my bracket for Heroes of the Dorm. Currently sitting at a cool 260 points.
Oh, 260 points. That's nice. I picked some of the wrong sleeper picks.
You and me both, though.
Right.
Man.
I picked some of the wrong ones, but my main squeeze, ASU, is still kicking and still going strong. So I'm really excited and hopeful that they make it to the final.
Well, it looks pretty good for them after all. And don't they have 3 pros? 3 people who have played on professional teams on their team.
Yeah, I believe so. So, I mean, that helps, right? I mean, having pros on the team helps.
You would hope. However, I've got this theory that they may not be at the advantage they think they have because the pros have been recorded. Their play style has been posted on the internet, so any college worth their salt would have studied them, looked for weaknesses, and then tried to exploit said weaknesses.
Exactly. I didn't even think about that, but that's exactly what I would have done, as I would have tried to get my hands on the tape. All those other sports like football and stuff, they watch the tapes of the previous games that they played versus other teams, or those teams have played others. Ooh, that's really good.
Yep. All the same, though, they're looking pretty hot.
They're looking good. And, I hope that it doesn't get to their head, because I know a lot of people, and on the stream and everyone, all the casters are talking about how ASU is looking really good. And even some of those other teams, UCI, those teams that have pro players or are very good in the college scene, I hope they don't just get comfortable,
That's the hope. For good matches, for strong, awesome matches that bring new meta to the game. Because, of all of the people to introduce crazy new tactics, I would expect college kids. I say kids now, even though, when you're in college, you don't feel like a kid. So I mean nothing malicious by that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree. And I've seen some great plays. Some of these games look like you're watching a pro game.
Mm-hmm.
There are some times where you look at it and see the differences, to see the experience gap in there a little bit. But that's what makes watching these college games even more fun sometimes, because they're unpredictable.
Oh, correct. And of course, it really brings back that college camaraderie, especially if you didn't get into college sports when you were in college, because FSU, of course, you have the football, which was fun, but I've never stayed up with collegiate football, although it is depressing. I always throw FSU under the bus for Heroes of the Dorm. I'm sorry, FSU, but right now you're really
Yeah. It's tough, and that's where you find your fair weather fans.
Yes.
The people that stick it out through the stormy weather and just plow through. So I'm glad that there are some good matchups in there, and there's lots of support on a whole nother level. I mean, with the brackets and everything, everybody's really invested, and it's a ton of fun to watch. And I know the brackets add another level to being a spectator too. So it's a ton of fun. So that's Heroes of the Dorm. What about new hero announced for Heroes?
Yeah, Dahaka. And how about the tongue and the pull? It's basically stitches, but you get to move while somebody is hooked.
Oh,
I love it.
So good. I am excited. I am curious, though, on your thoughts about Dahaka's silhouette compared to Diablo.
That's a very good point. I think it will be different enough because the bulk of the body is very different from Diablo. Whereas Diablo has that really thin waist and the taper and the shorter arms, Dahaka has a thick trunk from top to bottom pretty much, and then these really, really long, creepy claw hands.
Yeah. I that's the first thing I looked, though, because he still has that, hunched over feel, that spiky look, and I know that's one of Blizzard's main main points when they create a new character for Heroes of the Storm is looking at that hero silhouette when you're in a big team fight, being able to locate the hero that you're playing easily because it looks different just at a glance, you know?
Fair enough, yeah. But at the same time, I mean, there is Sylvanas and Jaina, and when somebody picks the General Ranger Sylvanas in her her blood elf skin, and she matches that of Jaina, I couldn't tell those apart.
Right.
To be honest.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. So I mean, it's an issue that's not really an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but it looks so good, and it reminds me that actual tongue grab and pull when we were talking about Phoenix and my idea for Phoenix to have that, you know, Psyblade just grab them and then be able to move them with you, and I was like, that's so cool.
They're listening.
Yeah.
They're listening.
They're listening. More like, I love that idea. I think it's going to be cool. I mean, what's that first heroic? It does like 50 different things to the person that it hits.
Oh, there's a blind. Isn't there a slow?
Yeah, there's like a blind.
A little hat is put on the character, and then their vision is heavily decreased.
Oh, and they can't see the enemy team.
Yes!
Oh, that's a whole bunch of stuff piled on top. I'm thinking there's no way you wouldn't pick that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. However, because the second one, that's the one with the health, right? You activate it, and then 60% of the damage dealt to you comes back as health. That one's going to be really hard to say no to, especially if you don't have a healer on your team.
Yeah, I love it, though. I love the talent diversity. I love being able to look at that, and it's what we don't get with Hearthstone expansion announcements, where we get to, like, theory craft ideas for these cards, but they kind of drip feed them over there, where we kind of have to look at them once every 3 days. We get one of the 100 and so cards. But when they announce a hero, I love when they give us the kit, and, you know, they give it to us, and now people like you and I can sit and talk and like, oh, how's that going to work? Which abilities are you going to take? And when it comes to heroics, and I just love, it gets me psyched for new heroes.
It does. And I also love the fact too that Blizzard doesn't just give you the kit. They also provide a small explanation of how it could be used and how it would ideally be used in certain situations.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great time to be a Heroes fan, like we say every single week. But there are other games out there, and I'm telling you, I've been playing a lot of The Division. I know we talked about it last week.
Yes!
But I've discovered something in the game that is so neat. Like I said, it's like kind of a post-apocalyptic disease taking over Manhattan that you game in with friends, but there's a middle section, like midtown of the game, where it's called the Dark Zone, and that's the PvP section of the game. And you go in there and you have to find items, weapons and stuff, and then you have to get evac'd out of the zone in order to keep them. Other people can find you and take you out and then take all your gear. Or if you're in a team, your teammates can take your gear if you go down. But it's so cool to be in the Dark Zone.
That's ridiculous. Now, the Dark Zone, you can still see things, correct? It's just called the Dark Zone because it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, it is dark, and, you know, it has, like, a dark feel, but you can see everything. You have to wear, like, a hazmat gear while you're in there because it's where the infection still lives.
Gotcha.
It's got a great flavor. It's a tough game, and it takes a long time, like Destiny and games like that, to build up and to get strong enough to take out some of these other players in a PvP setting. But it's really, really fun, and if you haven't played it out there, you should give it a try. It's fun. It didn't get the best ratings, which is surprising to me, and, you know, some sources like IGN and stuff are giving it kind of mixed reviews, but I enjoy it.
Well, let's not forget, I don't remember which one gave Heroes of the Storm 6.5 out of 10 because
that was IGN.
The writer could have been a little biased because he was a Dota 2 fan. So I'm going to kind of throw those journalists, I'm going to use that lightly there because there are gaming journalists, yes. However, That's not entirely true of the entire gaming review community.
Yeah, and you know, one of my problems with that, not to get too off topic, is that they need to re-review games every once in a while. And they do, but like it's time for a re-review of Heroes, I think. It needs especially when Arena comes out, it needs to have another go at everyone looking at it and saying, how has this game evolved on a whole? It's a game like World of Warcraft. It's constantly evolving and changing, so it should be constantly reviewed. And I think big reviewers and quote-unquote gaming journalists that work on those things need to take a look at it again.
Yep, I would agree. But, you know, to each their own. Once a game is reviewed, there are other games coming out, so I understand the time crunch as well. It's probably not to everyone's best interests to just keep reviewing a game.
I'm just assuming everyone has all the time in the world to do everything. So
if only.
If only. But what about games you've been playing this week, Kristen?
Games I've been playing. Well, I finished up BioShock, and then Tuesday picking up BioShock 2. And of course, the ending to BioShock is incredible. There's nothing better than running around as a big daddy and then trying to steal Adam out of a Eve hyped up super Atlas man who's trying to kill you.
I love the voice acting in that game, in BioShock. I think the voice acting's on point, and the writing is really good too. And I remember those, and you know, all the end of Rapture and that part is really good. And just the opening scene of that game, where there's no, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember there being no sort of like user interface.
No.
You kind of just start, and you've crashed, and there's fire everywhere, and you just kind of go for it.
Yeah, you swim to a tower in the middle of the ocean. You maybe see another tower off in the distance. Then you get into this little submersible and you're escorted away to the city you know absolutely nothing about. And you're right, there's pretty much nothing on your screen. You're just tossed into the place, which works perfectly for the story because that's exactly what they were going for. And I think, too, something that the game really did wonderfully was the lighting. That's something in movies and stage productions and games that doesn't really get talked about too often, but lighting is absolutely critical for setting moods. And that's the reason why when you fight the artist who has you take pictures of the 4 people he wants you to kill, he takes pictures of their corpses, that's why that part always sticks in my mind when I think of BioShock.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I 100% agree. I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember that. Oh, yeah, the lighting and the fire effects.
Yes.
And it's a very, very good story, and it's very well done. So moving on to BioShock 2 then?
Yep, moving on to BioShock 2. Again, I have no idea what this game is about or what happens, so I'm psyched.
Oh, you haven't played that one?
Nope.
Oh, good. Good. Okay, I won't say any more because
Awesome.
I did play that, and it was great too, so you'll enjoy it.
Perfect.
Wow, tons of great stuff going on. Heroes of the Dorm is definitely the highlight, and Heroes of the Dorm is part of the game that we talk about on this show, Heroes of the Storm. So without further ado, let's forge.
Let's forge.
Awesome. If this is your first time listening to HeroesForge, what we're going to do is take a character from the Blizzard universe and imagine what it would look like in Heroes of the Storm. Kristen will build a kit, I'll build a kit, and we'll just chat through it on the show. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. The way we always start, Kristen, is with a little background on the character that we're forging today. But before we get there, who are we forging today?
Well, today we are forging Deckard Cain.
Deckard Cain from the Diablo universe. And this is a special episode this week because it's one of our monthly episodes called the Forger Spotlight. So listeners submit their ideas for heroes that they'd like to see on the show to us via our email address or website. We shuffle through all of those ideas, we pick someone out, and then we build a kit based off of their ideas. And this week, we're building a kit off of one of our listeners at the Master DS's ideas for Deckard Cain. So cool. So, Kristen, let's hear a little bit about Deckard Cain and where he lives in the Diablo universe.
Can do. Born to the noble lineage of the Herodrum, Tyrael's first group dedicated to ridding Sanctuary of the corruption of Hell's forces, Cain was far from accepting the stories his mother told him. However, even with his lust for a regular life, Cain was pulled toward crafting stories, always consumed by his scholarly studies. It was this obsession that eventually led to the death of his wife and son at the hands of bandits, during his wife's journey to find a better life without Cain. Time continued onward until Cain's mother's tales began to speak truth during what would become known as the Darkening of Tristram. With evil clearly pouring forth from the nearby cathedral, Cain could no longer live in willful ignorance. Though then left in a cage to die at the hands of the demons he once believed superstition, passing heroes freed him, allowing him to continue battling evil the only way he knew how, through knowledge. After Diablo was felled a second time, Cain headed out with his adopted niece, Leah, for 13 years, in pursuit of forgotten wisdom that would help him find an answer to the prophecy of the end of days. However, this was to be his final quest. Though Cain is no longer with us, some still say they can hear the familiar invitation to stay a while and listen.
So good. Is there, I mean, there's tons of characters in the Diablo universe that are super iconic. I think Deckard Cain is in the top 5?
I'd go with I'd even venture top 3.
Top 3? I mean, there are some awesome characters, but this, I mean, the through line of Deckard Cain through the story is strong. It is someone that you interact and have cutscenes with constantly in the games. You know, you're working with, you know, in Diablo 3, it's basically how it starts with Deckard Cain and Leah and all that. And I mean, it touches a lot of the actual lore of the game.
Correct. And what's great, too, is that Deckard was never really forced on you. He had a lot of backstory, and he helped point you in the way in Diablo 1, and then he became more of a major character in Diablo 2, helping you identify items and such. But it felt like your relationship with him kind of grew naturally. He was a weird old man in the first one, he was a familiar, friendly face in the second one, and then the third one, he's your family, and thanks Blizzard.
Yeah. R.I.P. And I read an article about that was saying that Blizzard wanted to draw a more emotional connection from both the players and also the characters in the game to help drive the story along in Diablo 3. And I remember those moments seeing Leah after Deckard Cain goes, after he dies in the game, and she is emotionally driven by it, and it's a really good, again, through line through Diablo 3 that is essentially influenced by Deckard Cain's death. Yes,
100%. I mean, I certainly wanted vengeance after that.
Oh yeah, I still want vengeance because I want another Diablo expansion so bad.
We're all crossing our fingers because their expansions are never small things.
Oh, no. And so it takes a long time, obviously. Back to time. So, very cool. So that's the story about Deckard Cain. A little bit of lore about him there from Kristen. And now what we're going to do is the Master DS sent us a whole kit for Deckard Cain. Kristen picked one of the abilities. I picked one of the abilities from the kit. And we're going to build around those so that we could have a bunch of kits here to chat about. And that's part of the fun of the show. The first thing that we start with when we talk about the heroes is always the role classification in the game. And Kristen, I went with, drumroll please, support.
Support!
Support.
I did too.
I know.
We're going to have a fight off, support off here.
We're going to have a support off. And you know, I think just the way Deckard fits into Diablo, I don't think there could be another way to do it, but I think support is the go-to way for him.
I would agree. But that's what he does in Diablo. He supports you the entire time. He never goes onto the battlefield to fight. He just helps you along as best he can with the knowledge he knows.
Yeah, and the knowledge is plentiful. So we have 2 support builds for Deckard Cain, and there are tons of Deckard Cain builds out on the internet. There are tons of people that have ideas for him. It is a huge fan favorite, and we know that Blizzard is thinking of Deckard Cain and how he's going to be implemented into the game. So, I mean, there's tons of build up behind this, and so I know what I tried to do is come up with some different ideas because I've heard some great ones out there. So I actually decided to choose the Master DS's heroic abilities. So I started with his heroics, and then I kind of built my basics from there. So you really won't know the influence of my build until the end, but I'll go ahead and start with his trait. On my side, it's called Stay a While and Then Get Out. In the realm of Sanctuary, knowledge is on both sides of the eternal conflict is a vital part of survival. Picking up unbelievable bits of knowledge through his many adventures into the shadows makes Deckard Cain a force to be reckoned with in the Nexus. But never being a wielder of more just than his staff, knowledge is his power. While Deckard is in the Nexus and not taking damage, the cooldowns of his abilities are quick and they refresh quickly. If Deckard starts taking damage, they begin to slow down and significantly cause him to need to retreat from battle. So basically, he has reduced cooldowns when he's not taking damage in a team fight. And it's not anything significant, or it is significant, but it's not anything overpowered, where if you don't take damage, you just automatically refill. I'm thinking you just get, time gets cut off of your cooldowns in small amounts if you're not taking damage.
Gotcha. Now, would these stack and the refreshes become faster and faster and faster?
No, I don't think that it's gonna stack like an ability stack. Rather than there are 2 ways that he can cool down: the quick way and the slow way. So if you're not taking damage and you are if you're not taking damage, then you're refreshing on the quick way. And then if you take a hit, then it automatically will switch over to you being into like a defense mode where it takes him longer to cool down.
Gotcha. And that's a really cool way to keep him out of battle too, which would stick to his entire story.
Yeah. So, and that's another high skill cap idea where you have to kind of play it like a Morales, even more so, where in order for you to be able to use your abilities, you got to be a backline hero.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so I'm assuming then his abilities have a nice chunk of range then to make up for the fact that if he gets hit.
They do, or maybe some other things.
Maybe they don't. We'll have to find out.
That's part of the fun. Okay, Kristen, what were you thinking on the support side on your side for a trait?
I was thinking Scholar of the Herodrum. A lifetime dedicated to scholastic pursuits has rendered Cain a master of identifying weaknesses. Because of this, Cain chooses at the start of the game one enemy hero. This hero then takes extra damage from everyone on Cain's team for the rest of the game.
Ooh,
and it wouldn't
cool.
be super large amount of damage. It wouldn't increase. It might increase over the course of the game, but it wouldn't be one of those where 5 hits from each hero and the enemy hero is dead.
That's a cool idea. I like that, and I haven't heard that either. That's really cool. And so it's up to him to make the decision.
Correct.
Ooh, that's like a shot caller thing.
Exactly. And I was thinking what would be really funny, and an idea occurred to me, was if you were against a Murky, I'm sure everyone would want you to put it on the tank, for instance, because the faster you get the tank down, the better. But if you put it on the Murky, just imagine how many times you almost kill the Murky and then he bubbles and gets away. But if you put the extra damage on him, suddenly he probably loses that ability to bubble as fast. And which meaning you can take him out of the fight faster and get back to what's more important.
Oh, I want this ability. I think it's so cool. That's a great, great, great thing that can be implemented in multiple heroes too. I mean, just that cool idea, but it fits Deckard really well.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome. 2 awesome different support traits. I dig it. So let's talk about their mounting ability, and if it was different than a normal mount. I said that Deckard would ride a normal mount like all the other heroes in the game, but if he had a specialty mount, my idea was that he'd have like an old style cart, and he would be the rider driving the cart with like the reins in his hand.
Oh, nice.
So kind of like that, like a Tristram cart, where he's kind of just hunched over riding it, and it would just be going through the battlefield.
With a little carrot on a stick for the old horse.
Something like that. That could be a cool skin for the mount. That'd be really neat. What was your idea for mounts?
I was thinking it would be called Old Nag, and it would just be this old knobbly pony that matches Cain's old knobbly body. And then, of course, his B would be Scroll of Town Portal.
Oh, yeah.
It would have to be.
It would have to be that. There's a ton of ideas on the internet about how to implement his town portal, because that was a huge part of it, too. So I love that. And like a skinny horse, like, famished. This famished horse is just carrying Deckard.
Barely holding together.
And imagine if someone like Leoric decided to take that mount. Like the famished horse.
Oh, that poor horse. Or Stitches.
Or Stitches. Oh, Stitches would probably be the worst. Stitches or Diablo riding the famished horse. Although it'd be the same as like Billy, the Billy Goat.
Fair enough.
In the game. So
fair enough.
He can handle it. So, great. What were you thinking for your version of the Q?
Q, I'm going with Scroll of Healing. And Deckard reads from a scroll to heal himself or nearby heroes. Though weak at first, this spell becomes powerful mid-game as Deckard becomes more proficient at using it. Each hero healed by this spell is healed for a bit more the next time it is used on them, stacking on top of the scaling healing amount of the ability. However, this stack will not occur if heroes receive healing and are at full health.
Oh,
we don't want Deckard to spam this on a fully healed team.
Like, as soon as the game starts, welcome, heroes, just spamming it.
Exactly. That might be a bit unfair.
On Murky. Just spamming it on Murky. Okay. So, a couple of questions. I have a question about this. So, it's going to stack. So you're thinking there's going to be some sort of way to indicate how many stacks are on a hero, or are you just going to have to know or think about it?
I'm thinking if you choose the hero, if you click on the hero, you can see.
Ah, very cool. I love that. And that's got an awesome Diablo 2 flavor. So good. A lot of people like me, I get lost in Diablo 3 a lot because that's the current game. That's the game that we're playing. It plays differently than Diablo 2 does in some respects.
Looks prettier than Diablo 2.
Oh, yeah. Looks really pretty. So I love that. I love that idea. So my cue on my side was called The Book of Cain. So take heed and bear witness to the truths that lie within, for they are all the last legacy of the Haradrim. The Book of Cain is an artifact of great power and importance in the realm of Sanctuary. Deckard spent years perfecting its texts and wealth of knowledge, and its wealth of knowledge is unmatched. He brings along this tome to the Nexus, and it doesn't disappoint. When Q is activated, Deckard pulls out the Book of Cain, not unlike when Uther pulls out his book, and places it on a totem in a selected zone. This totem feeds knowledge to allies and allows for all allied heroes in the area of effect to have a reduced cooldown of their basic abilities. This effect lasts until the totem is destroyed or runs out. So it sounds heroic right there from the beginning, but it's not a uber significant decrease. It's more of a small buff that, if you think of it like the slowing totem that's thrown down on the battlefield.
Yes.
You have to focus that to take it out so that everyone can move at their proper speed. So I'm thinking it'll just be something that gives just a slight advantage to the team that's inside of it, and then also offensive play for the enemy team to have to take it out.
Yes, and visually it works perfectly because how many of those lecterns did you come across in all of the Diablos that have books when you click them, where they read you lore when you click on them?
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Would it glow? If heroes clicked on it, would something special happen?
Maybe. I was picturing it like the pages of the Book of Cain in the game that are like flittering with gold, like when you're trying to identify an object in the game, you go up to it and you right click your object and it's like
yes,
and like the pages are, so I'm picturing it's on this thing, it's visible to the whole team so they know that it's down on the battlefield, and so you got to make choices.
I like it.
Cool. What were you thinking for the what's our next ability here? I lost my place. W. That's where we're at. What were you thinking for W?
All right, well, W is from Master DS. And I've changed it up a little. So let me read the original, and then I'll read the second. Because the second, I altered it just a little bit so it would fit it a bit more into what I was going for, the scroll build, as it were. Because awesome. in the original Diablo, I love the fact that you find the scrolls of magic, and you have to use those to teach yourself spells.
Yeah.
So the original one was called Kidnapping, where Deckard disappears and reappears in a sack in a faraway location of his choosing. An ally or enemy can free him or her, or after 15 seconds, some rogues will free him themselves. Because in Diablo 2, if you didn't free Deckard, rogues would free him, as the story would go, and then he would charge you 100 gold each time you wanted to identify an item.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah, and then I changed it to Scroll of Teleport. Deckard Cain disappears and reappears in a cage in a faraway location of his choosing. The ally or enemy can free him, or after 15 seconds, the rusted cage breaks under his weight. And then that way you wouldn't have to animate an entire rogues guild. And it wouldn't be an entire rogues guild, maybe one or two people coming through, but...
Right. Oh, that is so cool. That's a really cool ability and hard to build around, right? I mean, that's really neat. I like it a lot. And the cage and just the flavor is really, really good.
Mm-hmm. He's got some magic, but
yeah, exactly. I think
it's a little rusty.
Rusty. That's probably his subtitle.
Probably
is like Deckard Cain. I'm a little rusty.
Mm-hmm. He knows it, but maybe isn't a master of applying it.
Right. But knowledge is power, though.
Correct.
In the game there. So that really plays off well. I love it. My W is called Go Nephilim. And Deckard also has an unbelievable ability to inspire and educate his allies to give them the courage to go forth and battle against the evils that await them on the battlefield. When this ability is activated, Deckard can select a friendly hero to give a movement speed buff to and allow them to escape or hunt down the enemy team. This ability can also be cast on himself, allowing him to escape and regroup with his trait and allow his cooldowns to continue. So, it's kind of a basic idea, but I needed some sort of way to have him be able to get out of a place that he shouldn't be with his traits.
Yes, I think that's absolutely necessary for so many heroes. Because how hard is it to play a hero that doesn't have an escape mechanism? It's challenging.
Oh yeah, Artanis is a perfect example. I get creamed when I play Artanis just because
when you start,
I can't get out.
Stop. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a Carbot cartoon about Artanis that hits the nail on the head with that, where you're trying to either chase someone down, or I think in the cartoon he's going to get healed by Uther, and he does his whole switch places thing, and he almost gets there, and then he gets taken back to where he was going before. That's the escape that's missing. Mm-hmm. So that was my idea for the W. A little basic, but still something that, basic abilities are sometimes needed, and I think for my Deckard it was needed, because my E ability is called It Has Begun.
Ooh.
So Deckard's prophecy of how the burning hells would invade the lands of men was something of legend, and in the end, he was right. Deckard has the ability to warn allied heroes of the incoming attacks from enemy heroes. When Deckard activates his W ability, he can select a friendly hero that will be unaffected by the next basic ability that is used against them. Whether it's a hungering arrow, a frostbolt, the friendly hero affected by It Has Begun is able to block this attack as if they knew it was coming. This would have to be spec'd into later to allow them to dodge a heroic ability.
That is really cool. I like how you implemented that because it does feel like they know what's coming.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that he keeps telling people, it's coming, and they're just, put away your book, old man, like, this is never going to happen. And then when it does happen, even he says it's going to happen again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no. But that's why I wanted to get that flavor in there. And it would be really hard, right? Because that would be a way different way to support somebody, because we're used to putting a shield on them or, healing their health pool.
Mm-hmm.
But this would be preventative, like Morales, or not Morales, because she would be support too. Maybe Morales or someone that's going in there.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw this on them, and it would only last for a certain amount of time. But as soon as they got hit by a basic ability, it would just negate it.
Yeah, and you'd have to know too, I mean, your tank and your support here would have to trust each other 100% because your healer would have to know that, all right, it's time for an engage, and your tank would have to know that, all right, it's time for an engage. So you'd
Right.
have to be able to read each other's body language perfectly. You'd have to be able to read the enemy team's body language. And also, because no one listened to Deckard, would the hero this is cast on be able to cancel it and go, no, foolish old man, I don't believe a fight's gonna break out.
Yes, and it would be a big red button. I
Right in the middle of the screen.
Right in the middle of the screen, and it basically is just a big middle finger to Deckard Cain, like, this is not. And then hopefully they get blown up by the enemy team,
To teach them, they need to trust their healer.
and then Deckard would have some sort of witty line to accompany it.
You fools!
You fools! What were you thinking for E?
I was thinking a scroll of mana shield. The target is surrounded by a powerful shield. Each time the shield is hit, Cain loses that much mana, either until the spell runs out or Cain's mana is depleted. So not too different. It looks like we've gone with a heal, we've gone with an escape, and then we've gone with some sort of defense.
Yeah. And that's how working heroes are built, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's great. And it's hard to get different than that, because you start coming up with ideas that just wouldn't make sense or not work. And I'm sure that's part of the challenge for designing these characters actually in the game. They're sitting around that table and they're thinking, how do we make this different enough to justify a new hero, but similar enough to make the game work?
Yeah, that's definitely very tough. And then, of course, they even have to take into account how much damage it's going to do, how long it's going to last, and all of that.
Yeah, there's the math. Again, the math is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like that idea. And Kristen, I have to give you a compliment, because you do a great job of having an awesome through line of all your abilities, and that the scrolls is such a great idea. I mean, it's very, very good. So, bravo again, as I say.
Thank you.
It's very good. Okay, before we move on to the best part of the show, I want to thank all of the people that have been giving us reviews on iTunes. If you enjoy the show and you want to spread it to more people and make sure more people get to hear it, giving us a 5-star review on iTunes is an awesome way to do that. We've had some really, really great things and feedback for the show, so thank you so much, everyone that's done that. Head on over and drop us a 5-star review, and make sure that you leave a little note so we can give you a shout out on the show when we get to this part. So, all right, without further ado, this is the best part. Let's go ahead and let's forge our heroics.
Heroic.
I'll go ahead and start because I love this heroic. I actually cheated a little
Yeah,
bit on
you
my
took
forge.
2 of them.
I
You're like,
cheated.
I'm taking these 2, Kristen.
I
Back
know.
off.
Because I like them so much, and they're both from the Master DS, and they're both great ideas, and I think that they fit the flavor of the character really well. So the first heroic that he came up with is called Identify Heroic, and this refreshes the cooldown of one ultimate of one hero in range. The cooldown of this ability is equal to the cooldown that it reduces. So I love how it built in how you get it back. Right? How you get this ability back is based on, you hit somebody that has a 60-second cooldown on their heroic ability or on their ultimate, you have a 60-second on yours, and it just gives a second shot. Although, I'm thinking, are you thinking this might be OP? I'm thinking of some of the heroics out there, and I'm like, if you could cast that twice, GG.
I guess I'm trying to think though, because I love the trade-off. I absolutely love that trade-off. It seems perfect, an eye for an
Yeah,
eye kind of thing. Oh,
it's it's good. I like it. Um, it's very good. What was your idea for your first heroic ability?
well, the first one, I'm breaking the scroll idea and going with here goes nothing. But don't worry, we'll be back to the scrolls with the second one.
Awesome.
But here goes nothing. I like fan attacks, such as Greymane's when he chucks his potion and then it fans out behind him, and Vala's multi-shot. Love it. So we're going with this idea. Deckard quickly pastes together a myriad of scrolls, letting loose an enormous cone explosion affecting all friendly units the wave touches. All are immediately healed and continue to receive lesser and lesser waves of healing until the spell explosion wears off.
Aha.
So it's kind of a haphazard heal. Yeah.
I love it. It's cool. That is the scroll idea still.
Yes.
See,
Yeah, it's just not in the name. It's just not in the name.
it's hidden. See, that's even better. It's like a little Easter egg, a little scroll Easter egg. I love it. Okay, so I'm picturing the animation would be so awesome for this ability. It'd be so cool, and I could see this old man like flittering with everything and trying to, make this happen. It would be so cool.
Yeah, he's bent over on the ground, licking pages, sticking them
Right.
together, and then or it explodes outward and he's blown backward, and his little eyebrows are singed or something. Mustache.
His huge
beard.
eyebrows, yeah. Yeah. Great. That is so cool. Oh, I wish I could draw, because I would draw things like this from our show. I really do wish I could draw, but I can't. Alas, I cannot. Cool. So my second heroic ability is also from the Master DS, because like I said, I cheated and loved both of them. This one is my favorite. My favorite one of the things that he picked out, and it's called Legendary Potion, and it's a super simple, awesome idea, and it gives an ally a super strong potion equal to an ancestral heal, which goes on their number bar and can be activated on demand.
I'm only silenced with these two heroics because I'm just envisioning how powerful they would be on the battlefield and how
yeah.
frustrated I would be if I were on the other team. Oh, but it's great though. It's perfect. And I mean, in Diablo 3, when you get those potions, you go, oh, it's amazing. And then those potions usually give you a special buff as well.
Oh, yeah. And I love it because it's a different way to heal. Right? It's a different way to heal, and you don't have to be there. Imagine if you gave it to somebody and, they're roaming around and they have this legendary potion. I'm thinking that you obviously couldn't stack it, and maybe you could only have one activated at a time. So, you couldn't give your whole team. You could just hold
correct.
back.
Maybe
and
in
give your
level
whole
20,
team.
you could give your whole team all of the potions. But...
Right. Or 2 at level 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just to have the ability to heal yourself on that, it's like an amped up first aid.
Yeah, it would be incredible. Now, of course, that would really challenge people to kind of get outside of their comfort zone and start hitting the number buttons, but it's doable.
Oh, yeah.
So doable.
Oh, yeah. And I was also thinking, because this is a great idea, this kind of adds a whole nother aspect to the game that could be there. I never played it when it had artifacts, and I'm not exactly sure how that all worked, but I heard it was a disaster.
It wasn't too bad. I understand why it was taken out eventually, but it was a lot of fun, and I would have liked to have had more time with it.
How did it work exactly?
You basically spec'd out your hero on the side, and then you would just take it into battle. So there was a special screen. So say you're Vala. You choose Vala. You could go in, give her the specs that you wanted. So in Diablo 3, for instance, you can lay out whatever attacks you want. Yeah, just like that. You'd give them the buffs. You'd get out of that screen, and then you would go into battle with whatever you had spec'd yourself with.
Cool. I could see how that would work, and it would be something good to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, good. So that doesn't have anything that I'm in an idea of what I had, but this also opens the door up to, I mean, I know a lot of other MOBAs have items, right?
Yes.
So this opens up the door to a possibility of creating some sort of item system and I'm not saying that I want an item system, but this gives a character something that they can use, like a potion. So what if there was another character, like for example, if Chen had the ability to give you a drink or something that did something for you, and you chose when it was activated. What do you think of that? Is that something that could exist in this game, or is it too much?
I think it could exist because it would be directly tied to a hero and a hero's abilities. So it's not like in Dota 2 where you'd have to save up gold with last hits, if you even get those last hits, and go and buy items. And you better hope you get the right items against the enemy team you're going to be fighting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this would be a hero giving you something that you could then activate, which isn't really too different than choosing a talent that gives you something to activate, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's where I see an opportunity. I think that would be a really cool idea. So what were you thinking for your second heroic ability?
For the second, I'm going with the Scroll of Inifis. And the Scroll of Inifis was a wonderful part of Diablo 2. It was that scroll where it tells you the order to hit the numbers on the cairnstone so you can get back to Tristram.
Oh, yeah.
So this one, in a large area, 5 cairnstones erupt from the ground. After clicking the stones in the correct order, which is different every time, a red portal opens up at the center, immediately spewing forth the evils that plague Tristram to this day. The portal cannot be closed unless at least one of the cairnstones is destroyed.
Do you purposefully save your best ability for the very last one?
Yes.
Because this is so good.
I do. I love to save the big ones for the end.
It's so good. Oh, and I can just see him saying some sort of incantation in that, from his Book of Cain that he pulls out or something, and these things just shoot up, right?
Exactly. And then the numbers, I could see the numbers being on the cairnstones so that you don't really take up too much of the screen space, because you don't want to blind yourself to what's going on in the battle.
So that's more of an offensive, that's definitely like an offensive support idea, right?
Correct.
How many supports have an ability like that where you're just kind of, that's powerful. That's got a lot of DPS attached to it, right?
Yeah, and I was thinking Lily's water dragon when I constructed this, because I love her water dragon. I will forever stand by her water dragon, even though I take cups all the time. But back in the beginning, I was a dragon master. Right.
We love dragons on this show.
Yeah.
Water dragon's great. Cool. Oh, that's such great ideas for Deckard Cain. And so everybody knows there are tons of ideas out there for Deckard Cain. Like we talked about at the beginning of the show, you can just search Google for it, like I did, and looked around, and man, people have some great ideas. But nothing like that last heroic, Kristen. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So now is the fun part. We can get a little wacky. What were you thinking Deckard Cain's specialty skin would be if he had like a legendary skin?
Good news, everyone! I would be Professor Cain, complete with white lab coat, Coke bottle rims, and pink bunny slippers. Professor Cain is always ready to share the good news. And for those that don't know, Futurama, the professor.
Right.
And instead of scrolls, he would have weird techno junk that he'd have to sift through.
Oh, brilliant. What would that last heroic look like with that skin on? That's hard.
Yeah, I'd have to give some thought to that one.
Yeah, that'd be cool, though. That's another thing I have to think about when I make this specialty skin. Is I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, but how is it going to affect all the other abilities and what they look like?
That's a good point.
My specialty skin was called the Godfather, literally. He would be the Godfather. So his Book of Cain would be a deck collection book, and the goal of the enemy team would be the goal of the friendly team would be to protect the Godfather. And a potion would be a nice glass of an adult beverage in the Allies' toolbar.
I love it. I love it.
And he would have a great voiceover.
Well, he'd have to.
Yeah, I'm just like throwing drinks.
Well, Deckard Cain, would he gain a little weight?
Perfect. That would be my silly specialty skin for Deckard Cain, the
Now,
Godfather.
would he have gained a little weight by this point? Because we know Deckard is rather stickly.
Yeah. Well, they have to change it a little bit. Like, they can't just straight up make Darth Vader. Instead, they have to make
Correct.
Space Lord Leoric, right?
So maybe it's a pouch he's holding in front of him.
Yeah, maybe he has a pouch, or maybe he is just a little skinny, but he's got the same, like, that would be an underbite, right?
Yes.
He's got the whole, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the little bulldog cheeks.
Yeah. And doesn't he have a cat? Yeah, he
Yep.
would have a cat that he'd carry around. So cool. And then his specialty mount for that skin would be like an old car. Like one of those old Bentleys.
Yes. 100%.
With the suicide doors that open. We're just going all crazy on this. I think it's
new episode. The
New
skins
episode.
of heroes.
just the Godfather skin. So cool. I think we can definitely say that Deckard Cain was forged.
Hero Forged.
Great ideas, and they all spawned from at the Master DS's ideas for what Deckard Cain would look like. This is all part of our Forger Spotlight, which is where we highlight your guys' ideas. If you have ideas that you'd like to send to us, you can send them to our email address, which is contactheroesforge@gmail.com. Shoot us that doesn't have to be a complete build. You can send us just an idea for a character you'd like to see on the show, or a character you'd like to see in the Nexus, a character ability that you thought of. My whole thing with Deckard Cain started with I wanted to have that lectern with the book on it, and that's how I started building this build. That's where all the fun begins. So it doesn't have to be a full build. If you don't have one, just send us your ideas. And the Master DS's ideas spawned some really, really great things. 2 support builds today, 1 support from Kristen, 1 from me. The scrolls through line over on Kristen's side was so awesome and just optimal. Over on my side, talking about more different ways to support than how we normally think of support. And I think it's good to challenge the ways that we do things, and also challenge the other ideas that people have for Deckard Cain 2 out there, which are some awesome ideas as well. So what do you think, Kristen? That Deckard Cain would be so good in the game.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely 100% love it. And I loved DS's idea of him disappearing and reappearing in a sack.
Yeah.
The idea of him trying to teleport, but not quite doing it so well, it cracked me up something fierce. I think I laughed more than any other hero I'd ever loved
And
it.
he even included a 3rd heroic,
Yeah,
right,
yes.
in the build that he sent. And I think maybe he was thinking that and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he was thinking that maybe his build was just a little too powerful. So the 3rd heroic actually gave the enemy team the ability to eliminate Deckard Cain.
Yep, wasn't it for a huge amount of mana?
Yeah, it was for a massive amount of mana, and you could eliminate Deckard Cain, and I believe he would go on his full death timer and then come back, but they'd have to make that decision because he was a powerful hero. And having a 3rd heroic, I mean, I know we want to see that from some heroes that are in the game right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I think down the line they might do that, but I don't think they'll ever make it canon.
Right. I think that's a good point. I don't think so either, but I know there were some rumors about Zagara getting a 3rd heroic with Nidus Network and Maw adding another one in there to kind of change the way that people think of Zagara and stuff. So yeah, it's a possibility, and that's what's so cool about this game, is that it's growing and there are lots of possibilities. So that's what we're all about. That's what HeroesForge is all about. Cool. If you want to check out the builds that we've done of previous heroes, we've done a ton. This is episode 12. We're going strong. We have a ton of builds over on our website, which is heroesforge.club. Over there you can check out all of the heroes that we've done. We've done every Blizzard universe so far of the mainstream games, and we've got a ton of ideas for the future. So check out the awesome builds over there. And you can always catch the show live. We record on twitch.tv/HeroesForge. That's the live stream, and it records every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. check your time with the time change there, 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/HeroesForge. Of course, you can find us on Twitter. That's where all the leaks come of what heroes we're forging on Sunday night. You can follow us at Forge Heroes. Also, make sure you head on over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/HeroesForge, where you can also catch all the VODs, and also download the show on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app so that you can listen to it on your long commutes to work like I do. So, that's where we're at. And if you'd like to support Heroes Forge, you can head on over to our Patreon site, patreon.com/HeroesForge. We're making a few changes over there to make the goals a little bit more obtainable. We want to do more content for you. We want to have the ability to do that. So if you love the show, head on over there and drop us $1 or $2, and that'll make that happen. So, Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs?
In the interwebs, I am known as Dream Destroyer, DRMDESTRYR, over at Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. And also my rippedforblizzcon.weebly.com health and fitness blog.
How is Ripped for BlizzCon going? It's been a few weeks since I've asked you about it.
Oh, it's been going great. I've started my video series, Ignore Pain. And this week, and next week, I'm going over the big 3 lifts. I keep going over the T's and the S. The big 3 lifts, and this week is deadlifting.
Oh, deadlifting. All of those things you just said sounded like they could be abilities in Heroes of the Storm.
They could be.
Save them, throw them in the bank, and we'll create some heroes off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. You can find me right here on Heroes Forge, recording every Sunday night. That was an awesome episode. Thank you to the Master DS for submitting your ideas to us. We love the build. We're going to link his build on the website, as well as both Kristen and my build, so you can check them all out, leave comments, and let us know what you think. Don't forget to send us your ideas for heroes, because we'll have Heroes Forge again next month, and follow us on Twitter to see who we're forging next week. All right, Kristen, I think we're going to call it.
Sounds great.
Awesome. We will see you all in the real world.